Alright, continuing 100 Statute 652, Public Law 99-499, October 17th, 1986. Section 114, Relationship to Other Law. Use oil. Section 114, is meant to read as follows: the recycled oil service station deal with no person could with the United States and any state may recover under authority of subsection A3 and A4, section 107 of the service station deal with any real response cost of the damage resulting from the relief of the threatened release recycled oil unused on authority, section 106 begins with the service station dealer other than the person in section A1, A2, section 107 that shows recycled oil. Is not mixed with any other has, and substance B is stored, treated, and transported other management in compliance with the requirement regulation standard that is obligated in section 314 Standard Waste Disposal Act and other applicable authorities. No paragraph shall nothing in this paragraph shall effectively modify any of the obligation, liability, any of the person under any other provision, state, federal law, including common law, the damage, injury, law, and loss result of the relief, the threatened release, hazards of the removal of remedial action, call for the removal of remedial action. All right, resumption solely for the purpose of the substance and service deal with the may pursue with some small quantity to use oil not mixed with the other have something if it has been removed with the engine light duty of the motor vehicle, the household, the appliance, any other by such for the vehicle imprudencies. B is presented by such owner dealer with the collecting accumulation delivery to the oil recycling facility. Definition purpose of subsection term of the use of oil, the recycled oil of the same means that is set forth in section 104, 36, 104, 37, 1436, 1437, the Solid Waste Disposal Act regulation promulgated to the Act. Effective date. The effective date of paragraph 1 and 2 of the subsection effective of the regulation, same promulgated with the 3014 Solid Waste Disposal Act, including any other provision requirement that with the corrective action respond to any relief of the recycled oil in subpart C. Subtitle 1 of this action. The definition of servitization is 0101 and circulated with the demand within the following end of there of the term servitization dealer means any of the person, owner, operative of the motor vehicle servitization, filling station, garage, similar to retail establishment, and engaged with the business dealing with the repairing servitization of the motor vehicle with significant percent in terms of the gross revenue establishing derived from the fueling and repairing servitization of the motor vehicle when accepting the collection, accumulation, delivering of the oil, recycling fat with recycled oil has been removed from the engine light motor duty motor vehicle, the household applying with the owner of the vehicle applying for the presenting with the social element in circulation, collection, accumulation, delivery of the oil recycling facility. For purpose of section 114C, with the term servitization shall not withstand the provisions of paragraph including any of the government agency that establishes facility the purpose of accepting recycled oil satisfied with the criteria set forth in section subclauses 1 and 2 with the subparagraph A1, A2, respectively recycled oil satisfied with the criteria with the subclause 1 and 2 of the owner operative refute the collection service with the help of the state law for the collect accumulate delivery of such oil the oil recycling facility the resident shall prominently give regulation regarding determining with constitute with a significant percentage gross revenues established for the purpose of the paragraph 1.6.15 delegation regulation. Section 115 circular is not recommended. 116 schedule of title 1 circular was amended with the adding following new section 115 section 116 schedules. Assessment listing facility. It shall be a goal of the year with the act maximum extent practical no later than 1st of January 1988. The President shall comply with the primary assessment. All the facilities contained with the date of the enactment. Superfund amendment with the Reauthorization Act 1982. Comprehensive Emergency Response Compensation Liability Act. The circulars of the include each of the assessment of the whether the site inspection necessary would be carried out later than January 1st, 1989. President shall with the completion inspection for all facilities where the President has stated the site inspection necessary pursuant. Paragraph 1. Evaluation. Within 4 years of the enactment with the Superfund Amendment, the Reauthorization Act 1986 for the facility of the date of the site for the enactment, circular comprehensive emergency response compensation liability information system evacuated and determined if the such evaluation warranted the base of the site and inspection preliminary assessment of the evaluation in accordance with the criteria establishment in section 105 under the National Contingency Plan determine the priority of the among relief of the inclusion of the national priority list and keep the facility with the comprehensive emergency compensation liability information system after the enactment. The Superfund Amendment, Reauthorization Act 1986, with the facility evaluated for 4 years after the date of the such president determined the such evaluation warranted based on the site inspection preliminary assessment. Explanation. Any of the goals of the established with the subsection A and B of the non-chief of the president shall publish the explanation of the such for the action not complete with the specified the commencement of the R and IFS or remedial investigation feasible study of the president ensure for the remedial investigation feasible study of the commencement of the national priority listing and to compensate it commence prior to the day of the enactment Superfund Amendment of the Reauthorization Act 1986 with the following schedule no fewer than 275 days for the 365 month 275 by the date of 365 months of the day of the enactment Superfund Amendment from the Reauthorization Act 1986. If requirement of paragraph 1 is not met with a view with additional 100 of the day of the 4 years of each of the day of the enactment, additional 200 of the day of the 5 years after the day of the enactment, of the total 650 day, and by the day of the 5 years of each of the day of the enactment. Commencement remedial action. President shall assure the substantial consistency continuous physical on-site remedial action commencement facility the national priority list and additional facility of the remedial action commenced for the day of the enactment Superfund amendment fund reauthorization back in 98 reauthorization act of 1986 with a rate no fewer than 175 facilities during the first 365 months prior to the enactment of subsection 2 on additional facility during the following 24 months after the 36 month period. Section 117, Public Participation. Title 1 of the Comprehensive Emergency Compensation Liability Act is amended by adding the following new section in Section 116. Section 117, Public Participation. Your proposed plan adoption with any of the plan remedial undertook with the President state with any other person in Section 104, 106, 120, 122 with the President state with appropriate for the take of the whole following action, public note for the brief analysis of the proposed and make sure that they able the public president provide a responsible appropriate operation submission for the written or oral comments of the opportunity with the public meeting with the facility issue with regard with the proposed plan regarding with the proposed plan with Section 121D with the relating to the cleanup of the President's Day, the shall compete with the transcript meeting with the magistrate, make such transcripts available to the public notice analysis published from the paragraph 1 shall include the sufficient information may be necessary to provide the reasonable explanation of the proposed plan and alternate proposal considered. Final plan. Notice of the final remedial action plan shall be published and plan shall be made available to the public announcement with any remedial action. Such final plan shall be accompanied with the discussion of significant change with any reason such change with the proposed plan with the response to each of the significant comments, criticism of the new Davis submitted with the written oral presentation under subsection A. Explanation of the difference for the adoption of the final remedial action plan after the remedial action plan is taken and enforcement action under Section 106 is taken after the settlement with the consent with the decree with the Section 106 within Section 122. And two, with the such action settlement with the decree with the difference with a significant respect with the final plan President and State shall publish the explanation, significant difference for the reason for the which pertaining with this were made. Publication for the purpose of the section. Publication shall include the minimum publication major local newspaper general circulation. In addition, with the receive available to receive the public domain available to the public under the section shall be available to the public inspection copy of the near facility with grants over the technical assistance authority such as the subject to such amount with the provide with appropriate action with the according with the promulgate with the president make ground available to the group of the individual may affect the relief of the threatened relief of the facility with the list of the national priority live of the national contingency plan such for the other grants with the maybe with the technical assistance interpreting information with regard to the nature of the head with the remedial investigation feasible study with the recorded decision remedial design the selection construction of the remedial operation making the removal action of the facility the amount of the grant under subsection E does not exceed $50,000 for the single grant recipient for the maybe the waive the $50,000 limitation with any of the K for the such waiver necessary for the carry out with the purpose of the subsection for the grant receiver the required with the condition with the grant contribute at least 20% of the total of the cost of the technical assistance each of the grants made with the president must waive the 20% contribution requirement. Grant recipient to demonstrate for the financial needs such waiver the necessary to facilitate the public participation selection of the remedial action facility no more than grant may be under the subsection respectively of the signal facility, but the grant may be renewed with the facility public participating at all stages of remedial action. Section 178 and Section 118 miscellaneous provision prior to the drinking water supply with the Title 1 circular with the amendment of the following new Section 117. Section 118 high priority drinking water for the purpose of taking action 104, 106 the listing facilities of the national priority list of the President shall give the high priority of the facility the release of the hazardous of the balloons contaminated for the result of the into clothing of the drinking water well of the contaminated principal drinking water supply. Removal and temporary storage of the container ram contains contaminated sold no later than 90 days after the enactment of this act. The administration shall make a grant of $7.5 million for the site of the New Jersey Transportation Residential Area of the State of the New Jersey temporary store with approximately 14,000 contained with the contaminated soil with the subject of the remedial action, the remedial investigation feasibility initiated before the state such date with the subject of the container shall be transferred temporarily store with any of the site of the New Jersey designated with the governor in such date for the purpose of Section 111A with the with the grant under subsection transportation store with the site of the container with the history with the payment with the government on response call that incurred with the pursuant of Section 104 circular. Alright, unconsolidated quarantine aquifer. Nothing withstanding any of the provisional original law, no person may locate with the authorized locations of landfill service and impound with the waste pile with the inspection of the land treatment of the facility with the unconsolidated quarantine aquifer of the recharge of the stream flow over the source of the zone of the such aquifer Rockaway River based on New Jersey Civil Aquifer Zone of the described Federal Register January 24, 1984. Pages 290, 29, 46, 29, and 48. In place of the authorized placement of the solid waste of the landfill, surface the impound with a waste pile with injection with the land treatment facility, the other aquifer zone. The subsection enforced by the Section 309 A and B of the Federal Water Pollutant Control Act for the purpose of the Section 309C, such act, the violation, subsection consider the violation. 301 such act. Save the short skilled personnel with the control of the shall be the person problem in the storage of the skilled personnel with the Environmental Protection Agency to carry out the responsible action with the circular with the particular control shall be with the type of the skilled personnel with the need of the response action for which the storage is a shortage of the Environmental Protection Agency. Extend the sub-store of the name pay differential between the public and private sectors for the skilled position involved with the response action. The extent of which skilled personnel, federal, state governments involved with the response action are leaving them with their position employment. The private sector, the success of the program, Department of Defense official Office of the Personal Management retain skilled personnel with other type of the training with the required to improve the skill of the employees carrying out the response action. Comptroller general complete with the study required with the subsection submitted with the report resolved with the Congress no later than July 1st, 1987. State requirements not applicable to determine with the transfer that no state or local government will apply with the transfer to disposal of any hazardous substance pollutant contaminate with the facility which relief of the rent and release that occurred to the facility which final permanent under Section 3005A of the solid waste in effect with the following conditions apply. Such permit issued within January 1st, 1983, before January 1st, 1984, with the transfer to disposal of the carried and presumably cooperative agreement to administer the state of the facility of the relief of the threat and relief of the curb with the identified with the make whole site with the full turn California. The terms of the section shall seem as meaning with Title I circular. Circular lead poisoning the children. The administrator of the agency for the taxes of the disease registry shall cancellation. Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency officials appropriate no later than March 1st, 1987, submitted to the Congress report with the danger for the extent with the lead poisoning with the children, environmental source of the such person shall include the minimum of the following information as per the total number of the children raised in the standard metropolitan statistical area, the other appropriate geographical unit, and exposed with the environmental sources as lead concentration sufficient causes of an adverse health effect. An estimate of the total number of the children exposed with the environmental source of the lead rate according to the source of the type of statement of long-term concern, consequences of public health. The unabated exposure to the environmental source of the level, including but not limited to diminution, intelligence, grade of the morbidity, mortality. The method of the alternatives available to producing exposure to the children with the environmental source of the lead. Some such reports all sources of the specific type of the children are exposed to the environmental source of the lead to be due to the relief of the hazard ranking sense of the national priority, live at the cost of the preparing submitting the report required with a section with the be born a hazardous substance. Superfund established in Chapter A with the Chapter 98 Internal Revenue Code in 1954. Federal license dam the purpose of the Comprehensive Emergency Compensation Liability Act with the command of the Milltown Dam in the state of the Montana listed with the under the Part 1 Federal Power Act of Design with the FERC with the license with the number 2543300 Federal Substance Pollutant Contaminant is released in the environmental upstream of the dam and subsequently comes to locate with the reservoir created and such for the dam, notwithstanding 101, 220 of the such act at the top of the owner and operative does not include the owner operative of the dam unless the owner operative is in person with the otherwise liable for the release and threat and relief of the under Section 107 of the Act. Community relocation of the time of the beach site for the purpose of the Missouri Dixon site with a temporary permanent with the relocation decision has been made by the under activity conservation minister of the enactment of the Act. Terms remove and removal even comprehensive emergency compensation liability act should be deemed to include the cost of the permanent relocation of the residents where we determine. So if the permanent relocation cost effect of the humanity necessary to protect the health of the welfare and keep the business located with the evacuation relocation from the such facility show that if the term may be included the payment of the installation principal interest-based business staff they will accrue the benefit of the evacuation temporary relocation 30 days following the day of the permanent relocation actually accomplished if the permanent relocation formally rejected for the appropriate response the day of the evacuation temporary relocation see the case of the individual employee with the result of the evacuation relocation the terms must include the provision assistance identical with the authorized War 74049 Disaster Relief Act 1974 for the cost of assistance shall be paid with the trust fund established for the amendments of the Internal Order of the Code 1954 of the Act Section 104C of the circular shall not apply with the obligation found with the permanent location of the paragraph. Our limited waiver to the state of Illinois is most mobile incinerator for the case of the remedial action specifically involving mobile incinerator unit of the state of Illinois remedial action undertaken for the state of the authority of the state Superfund will equivalent of the authority of the state may approve of the administrator of the aim with the permanent required subpart C solid waste disposal of the other applicable such action with the extent of the following conditions meet with no transfer of the incinerator does not involve the habit of substance pollutant contaminated with the facility with the release of the threatened and release of the current off-site facility. Remedial action provide with the following change with the character of the composition, hazards of the pollutant, contaminate with the concern, but no longer present with the risk of the public health, protect against accidental emission during the operation, protect the public health concern with the multiple immediate impact with the treatment process, with the public participation in the state, provide with the proceed with the public participation regarding response action with at least equivalent level of public participation under Comprehensive Emergency Compensation Liability Act and Solid Waste Disposal Act. Effect of the waiver to any of the permanent requirement may under the section shall be construed within waiver to any of the standard level of the control and applicable to have the substance pollutant with contamination involved with the remedial action would otherwise contain the permanent solid. Waiver the permanent requirement on subpart C with the solid waste disposal shall only apply with the extent of the facility of the remedial action involved with the on-site treatment of the mobile incinerator unit. The waste present with any of the type of the waiver shall not apply with the regulated potentially. Regulated be included with the UV the mobile incinerator of the UV the action authorized by the state of the expiration of the authority of the opportunity subsection with the terminate with the end of the 3 years on left of the state of the demonstration with the satisfaction administrator of the operative of the mobile incinerator of the state of the sufficiently protect the public health of the environmental consistent with the criteria to require with the permanent under subpart C with the solid waste disposal. Study would join with the use of the drug with the administrator of the constellation with the security of the transportation with the stuff conduct the study with the problem associated with the aim of the vehicle purpose of the transportation habits of the vehicle with the use of any other time of the transportation habits of the minimum of the administrator. Consider whether such of the joint with the vehicle should be prohibited, whether in just the joint of the permit of the substation guards shall be taken the minimum of the threat of the public health of the environment. Report with the administration shall submit report along the recommendation of Congress with the result of the study of the conduct of the paragraph 1 of the no later than 180 days after the day of the enactment of this act. Radon assessment mitigation. National assessment of the radon gas no later than 1 year after the enactment of the act. Ensure that the Congress report that shall examine the impossible to identify the location of the United States where the problem of the structure where the people that normally live with them will include the educational institutions at the level of the radon gap of the president with the structure, determine the level of the radon gap of the radon daughters which pose the threat of the human health assessment. They're located identify the paragraph A with the extent of the threat of the human health, determine the level of reducing, eliminating the threat of the human health of the radon gap of the radon daughters, include the guidance of public information material belief and the finding with the research of the mitigation radon with the radon mitigation program, mitigation demonstration program show with the demonstration of the program testimony for the technology that reduces eliminating radon gas radon daughters which pose the threat of the human health of the administration shall take it in consideration demonstrate the program underway with the rating prong Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and any other site for the prior to the enactment of the demonstrate the program under the section conduct with the rating prong as such other site. The administrator can show the appropriate annual report. The administrator submit the annual reports later than February 1st of the each year for the beginning of February 1st, 1987, with the staff of the demonstration of the program with the carry out with the subsection A with the demonstration of the program initiated prior to the enactment of the liability if the aim of the person to take with the presumed with the radiation mitigation with the demonstration of the program under the authorized to determine under principle existing law. Construction second, nothing in the subsection construction that authorized the administrative care with the regulatory with the activity of the research, development, and related reporting information, dissemination, consideration, and coordination activities specified in the subsection nothing in the paragraph 1 2 with the contribute with the limited with the authority of the administrator any other agency and industrial instrumentally United States with the under any other authority of law. Gulf Coast Hazard Substance Research and Development Demonstrating Center. Establish hazard substance research and development demonstrating some of the administrators shall establish the hazard substance research and development demonstration some of the here and after the subsequent reference within the center for the purpose of the conducting research for the more effective the hazard substance response waste management throughout the Gulf Coast. For the purpose of the center carry out the program research, the evaluation, testing, development, the demonstration for the alternative, the initiative, the technology was made. Utilized response action, normal handling, hazard way for the achieve the better protection, health, human health, environment. Operation of the center for the purpose of the operating with the center, the administrator authorized to enter for the contract for the cooperative agreement to make the grants universally related to institute involved with the improvement of the way for the management, such as the institution located in Jefferson County, Texas. The center authorized to make the grants over the contributions in agreement with the university located with the state of the local Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida in order to carry out the purpose of the center authorization appropriation. Authorized the property with the administrator for the purpose of the carrying out the subsection initial year with the September 30, 1986 is not more than $5 million. Your sites. Sent by the Congress to the President with a select response to the action of the facility with include the national priority with the published in Section 105 of the Comprehensive Emergency with Compensation Liability Act of 1980 because the President of the radon not required with the statutory regulation fully demonstrate the method of the particularly of the transportation disposition contain the material by initiative of alternatively method to protect the human health, environmental, and most cost-effective bill control technology. Our establishment work more than 180 the enactment subsection with the Section 190 with the Department of Energy directly with carry out the program of the testing evaluation technology utilized with the prescribing liquidized gas, other hazardous substance liquefied gases, fuel spills, test facility that threaten public health and environment, the technology transfer and carrying out the program established for the subsection. The Secretary shall consider the technology transfer program and the minimum of the document archive spill technology, investigate, analyzing significant hazard spill, develop and provide the generic emergency action plan, the documentation, archives the spill test results, develop emergency action plan, the response bills, conduct training to spill response personnel, establish a safety chain with the personnel engaged spill activities, contracts and grants, secretary direct with the active, enter for the contract with the grant with the non-profit organization, Albany County, Wyoming, and capable of providing necessary technical support which involve the environmental activities related with the hazard substance related with emergency use of the Secretary will arrange use of liquefied gas fuel spills technical facilities carry out with the provision subsection. Pacific Northwest hazardous substance research development and the demonstration of the established administrator shall establish the hazardous substance research development demonstrate for the hearing in subsection referred to as the term of the purpose of conducting the research for the end of the more effective hazardous substance response of the Pacific Northwest. Purpose of the center of the general carry out the program of the research evaluation, testing, development, demonstrating that its alternative initiative technology going to be utilized with the response to achieve the more of the permanent protection of human health and the welfare environment. Operation of the center of the non-profit entity for the purpose of the operating with the injury, operating with the center administrator authorized with the contract to cooperative of the agreement to make with the grant of the non-profit entity that is defined in section 201 Public Law 96. The public entity of the agreement to provide with the public basic technical management personnel of the non-profit the private entity that shall agree with at least two permanent research facilities, one of which will be located in Benton County, Washington, one of which will be located in Clallam County, Washington. Authorities of the center shall be authorized with the grant and accept the contribution enter for the agreement with the University State of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana in order to carry out the purpose of the center. Where hazard waste research of the Hanford Town site with the interagency of the Ministry of the Secretary of Energy authorizing the interagency agency any one of the other for the purpose of providing research evaluation, testing, development, demonstrate the alternative initiative of the technical characteristics, assure the except for the nature of the extent of the hazard waste, including the radioactive mixture through with the combination of Hanford State with Washington funding, authorized appropriate the Secretary of Energy for the proposal of the carrying out of the of the fiscal year for the becoming the September 30th, 1986, with not more than $5 million with all the sum of the property with this OPEC officer will provide with the Ministry of the Secretary of Energy support, pursuant to the interagency agreement enter within under subparagraph A with the purpose of the administrator entering the contract with the cooperative agreement that will make the grant with the same of the carryover of the research development and testing of the development and demonstration of the development in paragraph 1. Alright, your authorization appropriation authorized appropriate the demonstration for the purpose of the section of paragraph 4 of the fiscal year before September 30th, 1986, with more than $5 million Civil Creek Lailing Catholic with the day of the enactment acts. The solely for the group is evident in EPA national priority lifted up to number 44 Federal Register 37956 for September 1985 at the Park City, Utah, located with the tailing of the non-coal of the mining operation shall the demon the remove the list of the side of the recommended inclusion national priority list and dealing with the determined with the funds specifically to have not even the proposed listing such that the facility meets the requirements for the hazard ranking system, the revised hazard ranking system. Alright, Section 119, Response Action Contract. The term will tell one comprehensive emergency composition liability act managed with the following new sections of their Section 118, Response Action Contractors. Liability Response Action Contractors. Response Action Contractors, person who with the Response Action Contractor responsible for any of the relief of the threat and relief of the hazard with polluting with the contaminant if the vessel still shall not be liable under the aim of the federal law for any person for the injury, cost of the damage, expense, liability included but not limited to the claim of the identification of the contribution claim of the third party for the death of the personal injury, illness, lawful damage of the property, with the economic loss for the result of such relief, threat, and relief of the negligence, etc. Paragraph 1 shall not apply with the code for the relief of the cause of the conduct of the response action contract of the negligent, gross negligent, will constitute initial misconduct. The effect of the warranty of the employer liability, nothing in subject for the liability aimed at the person aimed at the other under federal, state with the human liable, nothing in the subsection effect of the liability for the aim of the employer under the provisional level, including the aim of the provisional level relating to working compensation, government, employee with the state of the employee with the public supervision, provide the service relating with the response action and activity, the scope of the authority of the government employee shall have the exemption for liability subject to the provision of section of the provide with the response action contractor of contractor under the section statement of the provision liability of the person who has been to provide with them. Section 107B3 shall not be available to the potential responsible party with respect to the aim of the cause of damage, cause of the act, or omission of the response action contractor, except for the provided section A4 with the preceding expense of nothing. With nothing in this section shall be applicable liability under the act under federal, state, and law with any of the personnel of the response action contractor. Through burden of plaintiff, nothing in the section shall affect the plaintiff's burden in establishing liability under the title. The identification general the person agree with the harmless for the identify the response action of the contractor, meaning with the requirements of section for the gain for the liability, including the expense for the litigation settlement of the negligence of the contractor performance carrying out the response activity for the test of the until unless the liability cover the conduct of the contractor with the net gross negligence or constitute the initial misconduct. Applicability section shall apply with respect of the response action carried out with the written agreement of the President of the Federal Agency State Political Subdivision, which is aimed at the contractor cooperative agreement in accordance with the Section 104D1 title. A potential responsibility party carrying out with the agreement under Section 122 relating with the settlement, Section 106 of the relating a payment, Section 3 source of funding, subsection with the subject of the Section 1301, 1341 title 31 United Scope 37 to 32 with the right statute 41 United States Code 11 Section 3 1 Superfund Reauthorization Act 1986 with the purpose of the 1111 amounts for the extended purpose in subsection the delegation response action contractor except with respect to the federal owned with the operative facility should consider the nominal response incurred pursuant to Section 104 with the sufficient fund available to has substance Superfund established with the subchapter A with the 98 with the internal revenue 1954 payments pursuant with the identification of the fund is repealed with the authorized with appropriate such amount that may be necessary for the rest of the payment. The requirement of the application agreement that may be provided with the sequence and subsection with the President of the determine that each of the following requirements are met, but the liability cover the dedication with the agreement that exceed but not covered in the insurance available for the fair and reasonable part of the contract, the time the contractor ends the contract, provided the prompt response action adequate insurance to cover the liability not generally available at the time of the response action contract entered into. Response action contractor has been diligent efforts to obtain the insurance cover the non-federal and sort of the liability in the case of the response action contractor covering the more one of the facility response action contractor continue the most make such diligent effect of the contractor beginning work under the contractor new facilities. Limitation liability cover the identification over the subsection and apply with the response action over the liability result of the relief of the hazardous substance of the pollutants contaminated with the such release of the rise out of the response action activities. B. Ductile limitation and identification agreement that may be done with the subsequent deductibles shall be placed limits without the identification made available. Contractors potential responsible party to the decision and identify with the decision whether they enter with the indemnification agreement with the responsible action contractor carrying out the written contract agreement with the potential responsible party present shall determine the amount of the potential responsible party to be able to identify with the contract president may enter with the stuff of the indemnification agreement with the president determines such indemnification if the inadequate to cover the responsible potential liability with the contractor arising out of the contractor negligence performing of the contracting agreement of such party president shall make the determination of the proceeding sentence with respect to the amount adequacy of the amount taken into account with the total net asset of the reach of the potential responsibility party with respect to the facility of the time and such determinations. Condition: the president may claim that under the indemnification agreement that refer to the clause 1 with the amount determined under the clause 1 only the contractor exhaustive that all the administrative the judicial common law claims over the indemnification against all the indemnification responsibility parties participating in cleaning up the facility with respect to the liability of the contractor arising out of the contractor's negligence performing the contract agreement the stuff of the indemnification agreement the stuff of the contractor deductible established in subparagraph B of the contractor recover the amount of the potential responsible party of the indemnification agreement. RCRA facility the owner operative facility regulated Solid Waste Disposal Act may be identified by the section with respect such as person retained however the person retained with higher with the described in section E2B with the shall be the eligible identification of the subsection only with the president specifically apply with the retaining of the hiring of such person. So costs recover the purpose of the Section 107 with the amount of the expended with the subject of the identification of the person responsible for the action with the contract responsible for any relief and relief of the consider the capital responsible incurred with the United States government with respect to such release. Regulation: the president shall promulgate regulations of the care of the provision subsection before the promulgation of the regulation. The program shall develop guidelines for the carrying out of the section development of the guidelines shall include the reasonable opportunity the public comment, the strategy of the comptroller general of the county general staff of the official of the September 30th, 1989, the application of the subsection included with the identification agreement that under subsection are being used. Number of the claim shall with the trust for the agreement and with the need for the subsection, the comptroller shall report the findings of the study of the new Congress no later than September 30th, 1989. Expansion provided in subsection A by the authority President identification of the subsection C with the not apply with the cover of the provision 1, 2, 3, 4 in section 107 A. Relief of the threat and release governance within the person with the cover of the provision of the trust for the person not carried out with the act for the preferred in subsection E of the section. Definition: for the purpose of the section response action contract, the term of the response action contract may be written with the contract agreement and the response action contract to define the 2A of the subsection A president for the federal agency, state political subdivision, answer within contract cooperative agreement in accordance with 140D1 over the any potential responsible party carrying out with the agreement under section 106, 102 to provide remedial action over the act of the facility list for the national priority list for the removal of the under act with relief of the threat and relief of the have the substance pollutant contaminate with the facility to provide evaluation planning of the engineering surveying the maps design construction equipment of the ancillary services of the area of the such facility. Response action contract with the term of the response action contract being with the person with the angel of the response action with the contract with respect with the release of the threat and relief of the hazard substance pollutant contaminate with the facility with the carrying out of this contract. Personal public with non-profit bands either conducting the field demonstrate for the person the 311B, any person with the retained with the higher the person with described in subparagraph A with the provided service relationship relating to the response action action. Insurance, determine insurance of the mass be and liable to be insured with reliable price to determine with the person to be made available at the time of the contract end of the response action. Contract provide response action. Competition response for the contract subcontract program. Management, construction management, architectural engineering, survey, made with the related services. Select with the requirements for the Title IX of the Federal Property Administrative Service Act of 1949. Federal selection procedure should be appropriate. Contractors negotiated by the federal government agencies while in carrying out the act and such procedure filed to respond to the action contractors subcontractors. Alright, moving on. Section 120, Federal Facility General, Title I, Circular with the amendment adding with the new Section 1, Section 119, Section 120, Federal Facility, the application of the federal government in general, each of the department agent for the instrumental of the United States, include with the executive legislative judicial branch of the government shall be subject to comply with the act with the study man with the same with the extent of the both procedural substantial aim of the non-governmental including entity including liability and section 107 of the act and hunting of the section contribute with the impact of the liability of the person and intent the under section 106 and 107. Application of the requirements and the federal guidelines and regular rules regulation criteria the applicable the preliminary assessment of the carried out with the this act facility with the hazardous substance located with the applicable evaluations facility with the national contingency plan applicable include the national priority list of the applicable remedial actions of the facility shall be applicable to facilities that are owned and operated by the department agency instrumental with the United States with the same member the exam of the guidelines the rules regulation criteria the applicable to the other facility norms are of the our agency the instrumental with the United States of the made applicable to utilize many of the guidelines the rules regulation which consist of the guideline rules and regulation criteria the administrator owned the act the exemption shall not apply with the exam of the otherwise it says with the respect of the applicable time period with the subsection not apply with the requirements not relating to the bond and issuing of the financial responsibility, nothing with the act shall be contributed with the required the state to comply with 104C3 in the case of the facility with the home and the operated with the department agency instrumental of the United States. State law. The state law concerning the removal of the remedial action, including the state laws regarding environment enforcement, shall apply to the removal of the remedial action facility owner and operator of the department agency instrumental of the United States. The facility not included with the national priority list. These proceedings does not apply with the extent of the state law would apply with the standard requirements of the such facility among the stringent standards and requirements applicable to the facility which are not owned and operated by the such department agency the instrumentally. Note for each of the department agency the instrumentally the United States shall add to the inventory federal agency has with the facility disposal facilities required to submit with the 13816 solid waste disposal act condition with the information on the section 3016 A3 of the such information combination for each of the facility owned and operated department agency instrumental with each of the combination effective contingency adjacent property with the own department agency instrumental any other person including the description monitoring of the data obtained. Federal agency hazardous waste complying with the docket. The Ministry of the shall establish the federal agency hazardous waste complying with the docket. However, the section referred to the docket that shall contain with each of the following all information submitted under section 3016 of the solid waste disposal action subsection B with the regard the federal facility notes each of the subsection action under the action with respect to the facility the information submitted with the Department Agency Instrumental United States with the 3005 3010. Information submitted with the Department Agency Instrumental under Section 103 of this Act. DACA will be available to public site inspection with a reasonable 6 months of the establishment with the DACA every 6 months. The average transfer of the administrator shall publish the federal Western Federal Facility will have it included the DACA during meeting of the preceding 6 month period of the publication shall indicate that the appropriate regional with the environmental protection agency additional information shall be obtained with the respective facility with the DACA administrator established with the program to provide information for the public with the respect to the facility include the DACA in the subsection. Assessment violation no later than 18 months of the enactment of the Superfund amendment of the Reauthorization Act of 1986 for the amendment shall take with the reserve of the preliminary assessment conducted with the such facility, take the following serve the preliminary assessment and administrative of the appropriate of the evaluation such facilities according with the criteria established in accordance with 105 of the National Contingency Plan will determine the priority among the release. 2. Include such facilities national priority to live for the maintain with the stuff of the plan with the facilities meet the criteria such criteria that apply with the same land with the criteria to apply with the facility of the owner operated by the other person evaluation listing of its subsection should be lead not later than 30 months after the day of the enactment upon the release of the petition from the governor or any of the state of the ministry of the main except for the evaluation any of the facilities in the docket. Where action in the department RI and RF within 6 months of the inclusion of any of the facility national priority of the department agency instrumentally owned by the operating facility constellation ministry of the appropriate state of the recommends for the remedial action investigation feasible study so that there is a facility in case of facility before the enactment of the section of the department agency instrumental owned by the operator of the facility shall constellation with the ministry of the operator of the state authority come into the stuff of the investigation study with the facility 1 year so the day of the enactment of the administrator appropriate state authority with the shall publish with the timetable deadline with expeditious composition of the such investigation studies. Commencement of remedial action interagency agreement. The administrator shall review the result of the investigation study conducted with the provided in paragraph 1 with the 180 days after the head of the department agency and the municipality concerned with the end of the interagency agreement agreement that administrative expedition completion of the stuff of the department agency instrumental necessary for the remedial actions for the facility substantial continuous physical on-site of the remedial action to the east of the facility no later than 15 days, months after the completion of the investigation, all over the interagency agreement that include with the review of the alternative remedial action plan for the selection of the remedial action plan should comply with the public participation requirements of 117. Completion of the remedial action for the subject of the interagency for the number of the section completed with the conditions applicable to each of the shall include any of the annual budget submission for the Congress to review the alternative agency funding could be used and provided the cost of the remedial action budget submission shall include the statement that have the proposed the facility for the human health, welfare, environmental, and identify with the specific consequence failure to begin with the complete remedial action. Contents of agreement, the interagency agreement, the subsection included but not limited to the following: the review of the alternative remedial action selection of the remedial action have the relevant department agency instrumental of the administrator that unable to reach with agreement the selection of the remedial action for the administrator schedule for the completion of the remedial action agreement of the long-term operation made with the facility annual report of the department agent for the instrument with the responsible to comply with the section of the furnished for the annual report of the Congress for the implementing the requirements of the section of the reports included but not limited to the following items: report of the progress of the reaching with the interagency agreement on the second specific call for the estimated budget proposal of the interagency agreement for some of the comment regarding with the proposed interagency agreement the brief description with no agreement was reached, the report with the progress of the conduct of the investigation, of the paragraph 1, report of the progress of conducting remedial action, report with the progress of conducting remedial action of the facility not listed in the prior national priority list, with the respect for the incident with no agreement was reached with the required time with the department of the instrumental file, and the report of the paragraph shall include the report on an explanation of the reach of the agreement that was reached with the annual report required with the paragraph that was contained with the detailed description statement that I say based for the staff of those facilities subject of those actions, include with the description of the type have with the president of the facility plan schedule initiating completing with the response action enforcement staff with an appropriate with an explanation postponement and with the failure to complete with the response action stuff the reports are submitted with the affected states. Alright, settlements for the other parties. The Ministry of the Consulation have the relevant department instrument the United States determines the remedial investigation feasible stuff of the renewal will be done properly with the federal state and any other potential for the responsibility part of the line with the paragraph 1, 2, and 3 subsection administrator the manage for the agreement with the such for the party under section 122 with the settlement of the following and the proof of the Attorney General such agreement that relate with the remedial action over the entry of the appropriate United States of the District Court with the consent of the decree with the 106 of this Act. State and local participation administrative that each of the department agencies with the instrumental responsible complying with the section that shall forward with the relevant state and local officials over the opportunity the appropriate pursuant to the selection of the remedial action with but not limited to review the applicable data becomes available to develop and study the reports action plan with the NK with the state of official of the property with the provided available to the section 121. Transfer of authorities, except the other or the authorities which are delegated to the administrator of the officer or employed with the environmental agency, no authority vested with the administrator on the section is transferred. The executive may be transferred by the executive order president, otherwise any other is employed with the United States any other person. All right, property transfer federal agency. No, but the last day of the 60-day 6-month period beginning with the effective date of the regulation. Paragraph 2 of the subsection of the department agent of the instrumental United States of the entry of the contract with the sale of the transfer of real property owned with the United States of the pool, which any of the heads and services disposal have the head of such a department agent of the instrument shall include the contract notice of the type of the quantity of the head or services notice of the time and so for the source relief of the disposal took place with the extent of the sort of the information available to basically search of the agent files. Form of the notice regulation. Notice under the subsection provided the such for the form manner that may be provided with the regulation promulgated with the administrative the promptly practicable with after the enactment. Subsection no later than 18 months after the day of the such for the enactment after the consultation administrator of the general service administrator of the administrator shall promulgate the regulation regarding the notice provided in the subsection. The content of the certain due for the last day of the 6 month of the day period with the effective date of the regulation paragraph 2 of the subsection A of the real property owned by the United States of the any of the has was over the 1 year and more known have been relieved to dispose of the deed entered in the transfer of such property to the United States with any other person shall indeed contain. At the extent of such information available to the base of the complete search agency filed with notice of the quantity with such hazard own substance of the notice of the type of the stuff of the storage relief of the disposal took place, the description of remedial action taken in the covenant warning with all remedial action necessary for the music of the human and health environmental with respect to each and any substance remaining of the property have to be taken before the day of the transfer and additional remedial action to be taken necessary the day of the transfer shall conduct with the United States of the requirement subparagraph 3 shall not be able to aim with the case of the permanent end of the property with the transfer of the potential response party with respect to such property obligation with the under the United States under Solid Waste Disposal Act. Nothing in this section with effectively impair the obligation of the department of the agency the instrumental of the United States to comply with the annual requirements of Solid Waste Disposal Act include the corrective action requirements. All right, your national securities. Specifically, as presidential order, the president may issue the special over the regarding response action with the specified facility, the Department of Energy, Department of Defense, may be necessary to protect the national security and interest of the United States, the side of the facility, the resource order include when necessary to protect the exemption and the requirement contained in the title or under Title 3 of the Super Amendment of the Reauthorization Act 98, with respect to the facility, with the concern of the President notify the Congress of 30 days with the issuance of the with a paragraph to provide with the exemption. Notification include with the statement of the reason for the granting of the exemption under the paragraph shall be specified here with the maybe not exceed 1 year with the additional expansion with the maybe granted with the upon with the President's issuance of new order under the paragraph of the site and with the facility on each additional exemption with the specified period with the may not be exceed 1 year. The intent with the Congress whenever the exemption is under the paragraph of the response proceed with the continuous practicable the shall be notified periodically with the progress of the response action with respect to which the exemption has been issued under the paragraph. No exemption shall be granted on the paragraph due to the lack of the appropriation unless the President shall be specifically requested the appropriation on the part of the budgetary process. Congress shall have made available the request of the appropriation. Classified information, notwithstanding of the other provisions of the requirements of atomic energy executive order, then conforming to the handling restricted to the national security information with the needs and over the requirements applicable to grant with the active of the classified information provision of the Act for the Title 3 Superfund for the Reauthorization Act 1986 for the limited grandfather Section 120. Particularly with the shall be applied with the response action remedial action plan with the undeveloped Department of Energy the day with the enactment of the respective facility owner property with the United States subject to the jurisdiction of the department located in St. Charles, St. Louis, and the continuous Missouri, the St. Louis, Missouri, the Republican National Party of Lisbon, with the Security Energy with the control of the Administrative and Environmental Protection Agency. Or Section 121 Cleanup Standard. The amendment that circulated with the Title 1 circulated with the amendment that following new Section 120 selection of the remedial action of the President may select with the appropriate remedial action to the necessary with the carried out with the Section 104 with the Section 106 with which are accordance with the extent of the practical national contingency plan for the cause of act with the response with evacuating the effectiveness proposed all of the alternative remedial act of the President shall take into account the total long-term, short-term cost of the action, including the cost of the appropriation maintenance in the tower during the period of the activities required. General rule of remedial action with the permanently significant volume of the Texas, the mobile with the head of the pollutant with damage with the principal element preferred author for remedial action involved with the source of the remedial outside transport the disposable of the head of contained material which surface shall be at least for favored alternative remedial action where the practical treatment technology available to the person for the show to conduct the assessment permanent solution alternative treatment technology review for the recovery technology if in whole and part of the result of the permanent significant decrease in Texas mobility volume that has over the pollutant and contaminate with the making of the assessment president and show the specifically edge for the long-term effectiveness vary for the alternative assessing alternative remedial action president shall minimum take into account long-term uncertainties associated with the land disposal goal objective requirements solid waste disposal act in Texas mobility propensity bioaccumulated with the such that of the Constitution. Short-term, long-term potential diverse effect and the human exposure to the long-term maintenance called the potential for the future remedial action called the alternative remedial action question to fail the potential threat of the human health and environmental associated with the excavation, transportation, remedial disposal, and contamination. Presidential the remedial action for the protection of the human health, environmental, the cost effectively of the permanent solution with alternative treatment and technology required, resource covered in the technology maximum extent with the practical the president may remedial action not appropriate. A preference for the selection of the president shall be able to exemption with the remedial action involved with the selection of the rejection with not like the select an alternative remedial action meeting of the objective of the selection a subsection with not associated with the practice of the other facilities to have a specific similar character of the making the selection of the principal president that may take into account with the degree of the support with the remedial action of the parties interested in on the site. Review the president such of the remedial action of the result of the head of substance pollutant contaminants of the ring on the side of the president shall review the remedial act no less than 5 years after the initiative of the remedial act with the human health environmental being particularly the remedial action of the implemented with the side of the review judgment of the president appropriate of the site of the accordance 104 106 president shall take the requirement that such the action president shall require and report congressional list facility that shall review the required as a result of the such of the reviews and action and of the result of such reviews. Our degree claiming remedial action select within section otherwise than required with the degree of the president of the action shall be obtained with the degree of the cleanup of the heads of the pollutants contaminated with the relief of the environment, control further relief of the minimum with the sure with the protecting human health of the environmental such for the remedial action shall be relevant and appropriate under the circumstances present with the relief and the thunder and relief of the such of the pollution and pollutant contaminants. 2A, with respect to the hazardous and pollutant contaminated with the marine outside of the any stream of the requirement criteria of the limitation of the federal environmental law, including not limited to Texas Substance Control Act, the Safety Drinking Water, Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, Marine Protection Resources Sanctuary Act, the Solid Waste Disposal Act, and propagated standard with equipment requirement criteria of limitation of the state environmental facility with the limit on the law. This is more stringent than the federal state requirement criteria of the limitation, including the state and same with the requirement of the criteria limitation concerned with them, improve the authorized and delegated under administrator under the statute and cited in subparagraph A has been identified the President state within a timely manner. It is legally applicable to have some of the pollutant contamination concerned with the relative and property owned with the circumstance of the relief of the right and relief of the habit of the substance pollutant contamination remedial action selected under section 104. Treated under section 106 shall record that the completion of the remedial action level to stand with control of the hazards of the pollutant contamination which has at least attained with the legibly legally applicable the relevant and appropriate standard requirement of the criteria and limitation remedial action shall require the level of the standard of control with least attention to the maximum constant contamination level of the goals established from the safe drinking water quality established from the 303 of the Clean Water Act, the goal of the criteria appropriate under the circumstance of the threat and relief, and determine whether or not the quality of the criteria of the Clean Water Act with relevant and appropriate with the circumstance of relief of the threat and relief of the President concerned with the determine does any potential for the shift of the groundwater environmental media ethic for the purpose of the criteria to develop the latest information. The purpose of the section provides for establishing alternative concentration and otherwise applicable to have the constitutions of the groundwater under paragraph A not be issued establishing the applicable standard of the paragraph A of the process assuming the point of the human exposure beyond the boundary of the facility defining the collusion remedial investigation feasible study is where except where there is no the projected point of the entry of the surface of the groundwater and surface over the base of the requirements of projection and this is no statistically significant increase for the constitute for such groundwater and surface with the entry of the point where there is no reason to believe the accumulation constitutes may occur the downstream. The remedial action include the enforcement method of the preclude with the human exposure contaminated with the groundwater at the point between facility boundary and also projected the point of the groundwater and so forth the water. They are assuming the human exposure that shows the name of the projected point of entry. Clause 2 of the paragraphs applicable to the clause of the presidential selection plan with the subsection B1 proposed the remedial action does not permanently significantly reduce volume of Texas to the mobility hazards of the pollutant contaminants of the disposal of the disposition waste generated associated with remedial action present land disposal of the referred class 2. Except for the provided in class 3 and 4 of the safety standard the criteria of the limitation of the state of the existing requirements could effectively resolve the statewide prohibition land disposal of the hazardous substance and pollutant contamination shall not apply with any standards requirement of criteria of the limitation referred in class 32 with the shall apply with the following conditions met. 1. State the standard of the requirement of criteria of limitation general applicability adopted with the formal meaning. 2. The standard of the requirement of criteria of limitation adopted the basic hydrologic and other relevant consideration with adopted the purpose of the precluding on-site remedial action and other land disposal for reason unrelated protection of human health and environment. 3. The states arrange for the assurement of the payment and instrumental cost of the utilizing the disposition of hazardous substances pollutants contamination concerned with whether 4. Remedial action selected with the President does not conform with the state standard with the initiative of the lawsuit with the environmental protection agency May 1st, 1986 with the chief of the remedial action form of the standard of the President shall conform with the remedial action for the state standard of the state assure the availability of off-site of the facility of the remedial action. 3. In case of the removal of remedial action involved including the transfer of the hazardous of the pollutant contaminated with other hazardous of the pollutant contamination for the only of the facility operating with complying with the 3001, 3005 of the standard solid waste disposal act, other applicable complying with the Toxic Substance Control Act, and other applicable federal law. All state requirements of substance of the pollutant contaminant may be transferred to the land disposal only if the President determines if the both requirements are met. All right. The unit which has the substance of the pollutant contaminant transfer was releasing the habit of the constitute the underground water all such relief of the unit's facility control with the corrective action program with the administration. Title C with the Subtle Waste Act. President shall notify the owner and operative of the facility demonstrate the paragraph of the President made selective remedial action meeting the requirements of paragraph 1 does not attain the level of standard of control. The equivalent legally applicable the relevant and appropriate requirements, criteria, limitations required in paragraph 2 that include the paragraph B of their President's findings that the remedial action selected with the power of the total of the remedial action level to stand with the control completely complying with the requirements of the facility with a greater risk of the human health environmental alternative option, complying with the such requirements determined the technical interactive with the engineer, respect of the remedial actions, select with the attainment of the standard of the performance equivalent required with the otherwise super standard requirements, criteria, limitation of everything other method appropriate. And with respect to the standards, state standard requirement, the criteria, the limitation, say with the not consistent apply with the demonstrate with the intention, with the consistent apply with the standard requirement, criteria, the limitation of the similar circumstances, other remedial action within the state. If in the case of the action undertaken solely within section 104 of the fund, using the fund selection remedial action attains the level of standard of the control provided by the balance of the need of the protection, public health, the welfare, environmental facility under consideration, availability of the federal fund over the side of the president, the president of the threat and public health and welfare, environmental take consideration relevant in median sense of threat. Our president shall be defined together with the explanation and appropriate documentation is informed with no state federal law of the permanence of the required portion removal of the remedial action in conduct with the entire onsite of the remedial action that's selected to carry out with complying with the section statement and may enforce the federal state with the same requirement of the criteria of the limitation of the remedial action required with the conform of the act of the United States with its core district court of district with the facility located within any consent of the degree with the required with the party with the expeditiously resolve the disagreement the concern with the implementation of remedial action informally with the appropriate federal state agency with the power of the consent decree with the may be provided with administrative enforcement and consent decree with the contained and stipulated with the permanent penalty of the violation. Decreed amount is not exceeding $25,000 per day with the enforcement of the President's such state. Stipulated penalties shall not be considered obstructed and impaired with the effect of the authority in court order complying with the specific term of any such decree. State involved in the President promulgated with the regulation provided the substantial meaning that involved each of the state within initiative the development and selection of remedial action for the undertaking of the state with the regulation of the minimum shall include the following: state involved in the decision performance preliminary assessment of the site, inspection of the location responsibility head and rank on the system of the state, concurrence with deleting the sites from national priority list, state participate in long-term planning process of the remedial site of the site, reasonable opportunity state with the review comment with each of the following remedial action investigation feasible study the data technical documents issue the plan with the remedial action identified with the remedial investigation feasible study, engineering design following selection of the general action, other technical data relating to the implementation ready and the remedy any of the proposed finding a decision by the President exercise of the authority of Section D4. Note that the state that negotiates potential reasonable parties will come within the scope of the aim of the response of the facility with the state the opportunity to participate in any step of the negotiation for the paragraph 2 for the party of any settlement. Note that the state of the opportunity to comment with the President proposed plan with the remedial action of the will alternatives under the party conservation President proposed. Alright, we're almost at 122. So, President proposed decision regarding selection of remedial action shall become with the response of the comments of the state include the explanation regarding with the decision of the subsection D4 with the compliance with the probably with the state of the standards. Copy such response shall be provided the state of the explanation of the proposed action state with the facility located the application of the regulation proposed to provide with the state of the negotiation potentially responders regarding the scope of any of the response to the facility statement and state and such able to participate with the negotiations of the paragraph 2 any settlements. Paragraph shall be applied with the remedial action script within section 106 with the release 30 days after entry with the consent with the degree of the President proposed that the select with the remedial action does not attain the legally applicable relevant and appropriate standard requirement and criteria with the limitation on the authority of subsection D4 the President shall provide the opportunity with the state to concur with and not concur with the selection such selection of the state with the concur with the state belongs to the signatory consent decree. If the state does not occur with the selection of the state with the desire of the remedial action form of the same with the requirement criteria limitation state with the interview with the ethics section there in section 106 before the entry of the consent with the degree with the have of the remedial action form of the such intervene shall be the matter of the right of the remedial action form of the site stand with the requirement criteria limitation standard state established for the state established on the administrative break with the President was not supported with substantial evidence of the court determines of the remedial action form of the same with the requirement of the criteria limitation remedial action outside state becomes the signatory of the signatory of the decree that determines for the remedial action cannot conform with the standard requirement of the criteria limitation state pay for the assures payment additional cost attributed to the meeting the standard requirement of the criteria limitation remedial action shall be notified of the modified and state that becomes the signatory decree. The President may conclude with the settlement negotiate with the potential reasonable party of the statement without statement of occurrence. The paragraph shall apply with the remedial action facility with the operative with the department agency instrumental with the United States at least 30 days with the publication of the President file remedial action plan with the purpose of the selection of remedial action does not attain the legally applicable relevant and appropriate standard requirements criteria limitation of the paragraph under authority of the subsection D4 the President shall provide the opportunity to concur or non-occur selection state occur but does not act the 30 days with the remedial action may proceed with the state does not concur with in selection provided with the subparagraph A of the desire of the remedial action form of such standard requirements criteria limitations state with the maintained action as follows. If the President has notified the state selection of the remedial action state beginning with the action within 30 days such that the notification will sole purpose of determining whenever the filing the President supported with substantial evidence of such of the action brought by the United States District Court of the district in which the facility is located state as helpless administrative record the President filing was not supported with substantial evidence of the remedial action should be notified with the conformance standards and sub requirement and limitations. If the state fails to establish the President filing with not supported with the substantial and statement and pays 60 days judgment with additional cost that attributed with the meeting the same with the requirement of the criteria that attributed with the remedial action select with the same requirement of the criteria to limitation of the state fails to pay within 60 days remedial actions select with the President shall proceed with the completion not then with the section precluded with the court shall not enjoin the federal agency with the taking the remedial action on relate with the inconsistent with the such standards requirement criteria limitations. Alright, effective date within the respective 121 circular with is added with the section requirement of section 121 circular with is not applied with a remedial action. For record, recorded decision here within is referred to as ROD was signed in consent with the decree with the day of the enactment. The recorded on record on decision was designed for the consent with the lodged within 30 days of the primary period immediately following the enactment of the administrator certified with the writing with a portion of remedial action covered on the record of the decision consistent with the decree comply with the maximum extent practicable the section of the 121 circular. Any record on decision time before the enactment of the act reopened after the enactment is to modify supplemented section remanded to be subject to the required section 121 circular. Alright, 122 settlements.